I've
All
never
right.
tried to perform or censor myself on the call with you, so this should be interesting.
Oh, okay. Well, don't. Oh, I guess it's true. I see what you mean. Um, you're not used to. I didn't think of. I mean, I did think of it as a performance, but you don't really have to censor yourself. As we already discussed that.
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Careful, Chris. Um, I've got this new sound. It
That's
is
like a sitar or something? Or tambora?
I think it is based on the Chinese like guqin or something, which is a
Oh,
sound I
yeah.
really want and I've been looking for.
Huh. That's cool. Oh, yeah. Like, there's another, what's the one string instrument?
Well, there is the it's not one string, but you might be thinking of the erhu,
Oh, yeah, there's that. Oh, that's cool. That sounds
but that's two strings, I think.
pretty legit. All right, well, I'm gonna stop at this rock up here and start my trip.
Uh, you are gonna smoke weed. I smoked some salvia a half hour ago.
Uh, is your job meditating now?
Trying to get there. That is definitely what we're shooting for. I would tell you the name. I'm excited to tell you the name of our stream, but I don't want to do it until you're high.
All right. All right. All right. Well, give me 2 minutes. I have to wait for some people to pass.
Oop, get back up to F.
Yeah. I just, right, I'm like trying to put a band together because I'm leaving the state, so it's only logical. And,
You're leaving Colorado, so before you do that, you're going to start a band, get everybody excited, and then tell them, fuck you, I am out of here, losers. Oh, that's a nice shot.
all right, I'm back onto my one hit regime, which, if anyone's watching, just take one big hit.
Why do you say that?
Um, well, I've done it before. Um, it's like the basic thing that you can, the more active of a participant you are, I think the better experience you're going to have on any chemical. The more options there are, the more creative, self-reflective. There's more there for it to work with, which I would argue is the.
Yeah, but I don't
But
understand what you meant by more
so,
present or whatever.
oh, I don't remember what I said. I was saying I'm taking one hit. I used to do that, and then I would be like, I'm gonna smoke for a while, but the truth is, I find that one big hit affects me just as much as three. It doesn't last maybe quite as long, but it's just as potent and it's more clear. It's less
Oh,
foggy.
so that's what you mean.
I
You
don't
mean
know.
just take one hit as opposed to take a whole bunch. That's what you're saying.
Yes, yeah, that's all I'm saying. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to kind of a discipline too, right? There's
You
most
mean
people are like,
only
oh, I
taking
get
one hit
high.
is a discipline?
Well, yeah, because like, well, am I gonna feel it? I don't know. And then if it's psychedelics, you're like, oh my god, I took too much. And then you're like, oh wait, I didn't take enough. And you're like, how about stop with the neurosis and just decide on your dosage and just go with it. So one hit's kind of like, is this gonna work? But it does. You just have to like follow it a little bit, and then it catches up to you. So, let's see.
I
Am
mean,
I
that's
was as
pretty
bait
much how I
before?
am
Oh yeah.
with. Well, you know, so with
Yes.
salvia, with and with weed, a lot of the game is. So many people are like, "Well, how much, dude? How much did you smoke?" Especially with something like salvia, because it's so dramatic. So it becomes this like lame competitive thing, kind of.
Yeah.
But actually, I think maturity is not needing more.
Yeah, I agree. Although I will say I'm having a renewed interest in high dose experiences, but mm, I would mirror what you're saying by saying there's these different dosages and knowing how to master each one is really important. But low dose is kind of like its own special thing.
I totally agree. Like different
Um,
doses, just like different drugs, are sort of like skills.
and maybe more importantly, it's like, what are you trying to achieve? You know, at some point, all of us just wanted to get high because that was the big deal. But hopefully, when you grow, you're actually trying to accomplish something, and that would kind of more inform the dosage.
All right, we'll see. I just throw down a loop. Now I'm going to switch between different. I have 3 different plucking sounds.
Oh, right. All right. Well, I got to see how this instrument works.
So now I can play hands free, but it's a MIDI loop rather than an audio loop. So it should. Oh, maybe 30 seconds might. We'll make it 20 seconds. So eventually it should
Can
change. Oh, I know. I
you
think I
can
have to hit
affect
random.
it too, right?
What'd you say?
Are there other generative components, effect loops, or other music it adds?
Not yet. I might do that later.
Okay.
But just getting to this stage was a lot of work. Writing it in
Yeah. No.
I mean, I spent a month trying to build it in Max MSP so that I could switch between sounds and also have these MIDI loops so that, like we discussed, so that it would sort of just change with time and I could go hands off, especially if it was getting really high. Uh,
Yeah.
but after a month of trying it in Max MSP, it just didn't work, and I had to give up. And then I built it in this other system called Using, and it came right together. But I'm still
Oh, right. You
tweaking it.
mentioned.
Yeah, like for example, this loop, those are the notes that it's just going to keep on going. The tone changes, but the notes are going to always be the same. So what I'm planning on doing later on is make it so, maybe every 3 or 4 minutes it changes key. So it would just modulate the whole thing.
Next time you play that, what key is that in? Well, what key did you play it in?
This is all in F minor.
Okay, next time try adding a bunch of E, like a lower E to your scale.
Lower E? Right here?
Yeah, well, yeah, there we go. I
You're
don't
a
know
weirdo.
Chinese music. I don't know Chinese music at all, but I do know there's some really interesting sounding modes. I think that one might be more Indian, but
There's a flat 2.
yeah. Oh, that's Chinese. I should check that out. Here's where I am.
Where's that? Colorado, obviously.
Chautauqua.
Oh, okay.
Chautauqua.
By Boulder.
Yeah. Because I should get reception. I'll make sure I keep
That's what I figured.
hearing your Western modal Chinese music.
I was thinking about. Well, what's funny is I was the other day we were talking about, and I was saying I was working on this Duke Ellington tune, and I am just playing. Well, I guess technically it's not. It's from the Duke Ellington tune, but it's only one chord, so it's not exactly. But yeah, it's just F minor. But earlier I was playing through these Duke Ellington tunes chords that I'm working on right now.
Can you see the river? Well, it's frozen, but
Whoa. Oh, it's the river. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm looking at the live streaming software. It says there's actually a option for 360 software.
what's that?
360 or sorry, not software. I meant video. So you can get a
Oh,
360 video, you know, and
really?
and you can go live and look, and people can like scroll around and look around. That could be pretty cool.
Oh, that's fucking cool. So let's see. I'm not the bass player, and I'm researching Amanita. That's my thing so far. And now this, which I'm really hoping turns into a regular thing, because I'm like, we talk all the time, and as long as we, you know, people like what we're saying, then this would be a fun way to connect to some like-minded folk. That would be my goal.
Yeah, well,
Psychonauts, musicians, and like, yeah.
okay, do you want to know the name of our show? I came up with it the other day, and I was like, Jeremy's gonna hate it, so I'm not even gonna tell him until he's high.
Oh no! All right, what is it?
The name of our show is Drugs, God, Music. What is it again? What? You must be high. It's Drugs, God, Music. Episode 1.
Okay. I propose changing the name to Drugs, Music, and God.
Oh, okay. I will not do that
anyway,
right now. But I am open. I'm open to that discussion.
That. Just for general viewership, this is my virgin foray into into publicly identifying as a psychonaut, mystic, and psychedelic user. So this is kind of like a big moment for me.
Well, except that we have put together ceremonies together and told everybody that we were psychonauts and that they were going to be taking mushrooms.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, that's public.
I don't know.
You mean on the internet, pretty much.
Difference. Yeah.
Have you really never outed yourself as a psychonaut on the internet?
No. I mean, I probably talked about certain topics, but more in theory, not like I am ...
Well, I don't know if you have yet, but although you're getting pretty close since you smoked weed on camera.
Well, this is it. We're doing a live stream, so the select general public. Anyway, no, it's good. It's time to put ourselves out there. Very much for me to put myself out there. You know, I may have brought the wrong footwear for this hike, but we'll manage.
Yeah, it's weird walking around with a camera, isn't it? With a phone.
Yeah, although it's a novel experience, and I kind of dig it because, I mean, especially if we know somebody is actually watching, I feel like we're having I feel like I'm on the spot. Like I might be as a musician more than I ever have felt on at least one of our phone calls. I've never had a phone call that was itself a show, as it were. But I kind of dig it.
So, you want to talk about Kava? You did Kava for this, by the way, is Kava.
Oh, nice.
You can get like pre-canned Kava drinks. And I'll probably end up drinking another one too.
Let's see. What I first noticed is it's what's a good word? marginalized underground population at this Kava bar. I could see a Kava bar being a bunch of different kinds of atmospheres. Like I could imagine, Chris, what yours might be like. This one was more like, 18 to 25, or some kind of, older folks that were still in that kind of cultural zone. A lot of face tattoos, a lot of tattoos in general. Maybe some meth smoking going on. That was kind of
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, and this was in Longmont?
Yeah, and it was a big place. It seemed successful. The products were good. They were pro, but the clientele was definitely edgy. So I like your tattoos. Yeah, that's happy. So that was that. It had a bunch of things: Kava and kratom, and some teas. Ordered the Kava, $6. So that was kind of rad. They said it was strong. Some people have concentrates, I guess. Then I asked the guys at the counter just questions about its effects and comparing to kratom. They seemed like many people trying to answer my questions as straightforward as I think I'm being. Somehow it seems like the questions I'm asking are really hard to answer.
That happens to you a lot, especially at bars.
Happens to me a lot. I'm just saying, how does it, Anyway, so we did that for a little bit, and then it was 12 ounces, and I drank. I first noticed that it didn't taste. It was very bland. Most drinks you
Kava?
buy are like strong flavor. It's like sweet, sour, salty and spicy and bitter. It's really just water. There's no real flavor. But then under it's this kind of earthy dirt flavor.
I wonder if it was a little on the weak side, because I think of it as having like a really strong bitter dirt quality.
True. So it's bitter. It was a little bitter, but it wasn't anything else. I noticed that it's kind of milky from the Kava lactones, which I've been doing research. I mean, kind of for you, but motivated, but kind of just interested. And I've been sending you things of how to convert potential Kava lactones to active Kava lactones, so you get more potency from the same strength of brew.
Oh yeah.
And then,
I have heard about mixing it like with fats, like just putting in some milk is supposed to help.
Yeah, that does it too. Brings it into your system. But there's an enzyme in saliva that you can buy isolated, and that chemically strengthens the Kava. So it's worth checking out. Anyway, fermenting it actually might make it stronger too. I might
really
play around with that.
Well, that's cool. You've been looking into this stuff. We should probably mention that the reason we're doing so much Kava experimentation is because my wife and I are talking about starting a Kava bar in Oregon. That would be the idea is to make it a pretty explicit Psychonaut hangout.
Yeah, secret society. Oh, I'm psyched, man. When that comes to be, it's gonna be a lifestyle shift for me, definitely.
Wait, my Kava bar will?
Yeah. Was there doing your own stuff that I want to check out, and then we'll do stuff together. I just think I'll be up there a lot.
Yeah, well, especially if you move out to Oregon.
Well, that too. But I don't know, man. My life's changing, getting flexible. Anyway, But back to Kava. So yeah, I would say about halfway through, I felt the kind of like numbing buzz. And I will preface this by saying that doing something once gives very little gives some information. But I know a lot of people tried salvia once and they fucking hated it because they did 10 times too much. So I'd say if you really want to get to know a drug, you gotta know number one fucking dosage. Like number one, like before anything. Because last night I would say I drank the equal to maybe a 5% beer, one 12-ounce 5% beer. That's kind of what it felt like intensity-wise. And
the Kava did?
then, yeah. Like, ultimately, I enjoyed the high, but I feel like the way it was making me high was like, I didn't kind of dig it. It was too stomachy. I was kind of nauseous. I could see that probably could go away. I'm going to try it again. And I don't like the numbing effect. I don't like that at all.
Numbing, how it numbs you in general, or like your face? Because Kava totally like numbs your tongue.
Yeah, I've had different Kava preparations over the years. Tinctures are more potent, but yeah, the numbing feeling, I don't really like that. I could see some people really enjoying that as one of the primary experiences, or not primary, but but yeah, I didn't like that. I feel like ketamine is numbing.
Yeah, ketamine's numbing.
But it does it in a way I really do like. Anyway, so that was kind of it. I drank my one, texted you the whole time, and then drove my car to the store, and I felt comfortably altered. Um, the stomach numbing feeling lasted a while, but it didn't really bother me. I went to the store. That was chill. So I was functional. I felt comfortable driving. I know I didn't do much. I'll probably do it again, but however it works, all of a sudden I'm like in the new psychoactive chemical inquiry. The topic I'm studying for the last month or more has been about psychedelics therapeutically, and now I'm specifically looking for books that discuss the psycho-spiritual map and like internal capacities that psychedelics engender. Like if you take a psychedelic and you can imagine things more vividly, that just gives you a new mental tool to use. That's what I'm trying to hone in on as far as studying experience. I think that what I'm most interested now, the application of psychedelics, or it can do different things visually, auditorily, a sense of body shape or size, an ability to think about yourself in different ways, either better or more comfortably. Emotions, your relationship with emotions changes. Anyways, there's all these layers that are like enhancements or outright tools that a drug will give you. And as I'm orienting myself in the psychedelic renaissance, which I now maybe belated and everybody up to the punch, but relates to the word Renaissance after the Dark Age, which clearly has been since the 60s, late 60s, something like that, where they all got clamped down on. Like the, European Dark Ages and Renaissance. Anyway, so I'm excited in a new way about what's going on in the plant world. So yeah, looking for those books, interested in that topic, um, and trying new drugs. That's kind of, as I've studied, I've realized I have I don't have enough experience with high dose mushrooms.
Oh, could I
Um,
interject something?
yeah, yeah.
Why don't you somebody asked just generally what your thoughts of mushrooms are, so you could steer towards what's up with your experience with mushrooms, and in particular your interest in high doses. I've done mushrooms.
Huh.
I don't even know how many times, but I've only done more than 3 grams once a few months ago. It was amazing. Um, and almost all of my experience with mushrooms, I'd say, would be like 2 grams or less, other than just a handful of times.
Oh yeah, me too. Except I've never done more than three. I don't think I probably have done three a couple times, but like Chris, my dosages, what I've targeted, maybe better to say it this way, what I've targeted in my experience, it's usually been musical. So I wanted to be able to physically play my keyboard. But I didn't have to play it in any particular way. I just had to be sitting up, able to sit up. So that meant lower than, something. And I tend to be, if somebody's considering um, a path of personal inquiry, right? If you're considering, okay, right, life is pretty cut and dry. It's prescripted. It's we all know the things. So what else is life for, right? If you're starting to think about the meaning of life or your own personal experience, then you kind of hone in on a territory of it's philosophy, it's religious, it's psycho-emotional, it's your own healing, it's um, other states of consciousness and those worlds. I think that's I think that's a thing that unconsciously guides everybody. But if you don't know what you're going for, you just know you're going for altered consciousness because fucking A, without altering it, consciousness is pretty narrowly constrained in Western American, let's say just our demographic, right? The world we live in, probably just as defined as it always has been. But sometimes people just want to say, fuck, what else is there? And that's fine. But if you do, just remember you can't take more than gives you the answer you're seeking, because then it's going to mess up the whole process. So dosage, intention, and dosage. But the intention can be really vague. Anyway, so my thoughts, I guess these are my thoughts. I haven't done more, but I've been reading about psychedelics in general. And mushrooms, I've done more than anything else. So for me at this point, my mushroom experience is either normal, how I do it, or there's something new about it. But I'm not in the seeking phase. So for me, I think taking more, um, I'm not that interested in other worlds, or at least entirely inhabiting other worlds. And however you define that, except dreaming, I will say that I would like to be able to have more self-awareness while I'm dreaming. I think that would create an enhanced life experience and
Do
all
you
sorts of other adventures.
do you lucid dream?
I did once, um, and then an alarm clock went off. I don't know how long it lasted. That was the only time it happened.
Yeah. I had
But
a.
I've read a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
I used to lucid dream quite a bit. I haven't in a long time though. Although I
Oh,
sort of have
really?
these semi half lucid qualities to my dreams, like a lot. Like I'm kind of like I'm aware that I'm dreaming, and I can even sort of do a analysis kind of my dream, and I can change characters and stuff a lot. But at the same time, it's not like I'm fully aware and able to like do all this magic and stuff necessarily. It's like in between kind of.
Oh yeah. When you were lucid dreaming, did you practice it or did it just start happening?
I would say it just sort of happened.
Oh, cool.
This was like more like in my 20s, I guess, when I was really opening up as a mystic. And I had a dream one time. I'm going to drop that off for a second. I had a dream one time. The most amazing dream I've ever had, I think. And so I was having a lucid dream, and I was like flying around, and I could like throw fireballs, and let's see here. I remember I was I was at the country club or something, and I was having a conversation, with this woman who is an old friend, but then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I must be dreaming because this isn't actually her. And so I say, so how did I put it? Like, I was like, do you realize you're a dream character? Or something like that. And she said, I'm not just a dream character. And then she started giving me all of this like wisdom and telling me about the universe. I don't remember any of that stuff.
Oh wow.
Then later on, my lucid dream continued, and I was like in a canyon. I messed up the order. I was like, because the whole flying around and shooting fireballs was later on. So I'm in this canyon, like like in the Southwest, and I'm flying around throwing canyons, and this portal opens up, and all of these zombies start like walking out, and she comes out. Only now she's like mean, and she's like a magician, and we get in this like magic battle.
With the zombies?
No, 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 not with the zombies. With the now not as nice woman.
Oh, you two were. Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
the two of us got in like this like wizard battle.
That's cool. One of my weekly, almost reoccurring dreams involves a building,
Building?
and yeah, a building. And it might be a church, it might be a hotel, it might be a house, it might be like a type of museum or even like concert venue. Usually it's vertical, like there's lots of floors. Sometimes it's horizontal, like there's lots of wings to this one building. And I just have various adventures in this place. There's the vertical one has like maybe 3 upper floors, ground, 3 upper floors, and then maybe 2, maybe 3 sub floors. And then the horizontal one has like a main house. It's, big, like say 6 bedrooms. But then there's like an outbuilding with like another 12 units, and then various other things kind of just magically happen. I think there's a chicken coop that becomes a bedroom at some point. Anyway, that's one of my recurring dreams. I always thought it was like levels of consciousness. In the dream, it feels like that, vertically anyway. Like going higher up and then lower down.
I always figure I've done this before, like you take a symbol that comes a lot in your dreams. And remember, you're the one creating your dreams, right? It's not this mysterious other person. So I'll just say, whenever this comes up, I'm going to interpret it this way.
Hmm.
And then you just get in the habit of interpreting that symbol in that particular way. And then I figure, at least my logic is, when I'm creating the dream, well, I know that I will interpret it this way, and so you would expect it to influence what the symbol actually means.
Oh, sure.
It's weird. We look at dreams and we think, we treat them as if they're created by somebody else, but they're created by us, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Actually, I've always thought the real miracle of dreams isn't, people are like, oh, it's so cool to lucid dream, right? What if you knew you were dreaming and you could like control stuff? Well, what's funny is I think the real miracle is that you can do something other than lucid dreaming, right? So you're creating this dream You're creating this whole world. You can do whatever it is you want with this. And what you do is you create within that world, you create an avatar for yourself, which looks like your body, right? And then you identify with that avatar and you dissociate with everything else. And then you actually create these rules that aren't even real, like I have to stay on the ground and like physical rules that happen in dreams, but you're creating all of those. All those limitations are created by your mind.
You're saying this is how dreams are literally created.
This is how dreams literally are.
Oh yeah, I got you. Right, yeah, cognitive rules. Modeled, I guess, on the way the brain's wired anyway, because it resembles Earth more than it does some, planet or dimension we're not aware of.
Well, depending on the dream.
Well, that's true. Or an expansion of. I think that's true. What you're saying? I mean, arguably being staunch phenomenologists, I mean, all you got is your brain, so it's hard to sometimes tell the difference between one version of reality and another one when you're in that reality. It's hard to kind of determine whether there's some entire other reality that's more or less real, because all you have is your own experience. So it's hard to compare with an experience you're not having, let alone the nature of true reality, quote unquote, which again is uninterpretable because you have to interpret it to have the experience. So it's kind of Tibetan. It kind of puts all states of consciousness on an even playing field. Dreaming, which, for argument's sake, if you're wondering whether to do psychedelics, and one of your rationales is you don't want to alter your consciousness, well, you do every night. So just delete that one and think of a better one. So yeah, you have dreaming, you have waking, and then you have, say, this meditative state of consciousness and a psychedelic state of consciousness. And
That's how I
maybe
see it.
yeah, right. Maybe part of the magic of any reality, like you're saying, Chris, is if you are become aware. Well, let's say, how would you describe in your model of how the brain creates dreams? How would you describe what happens in the brain when you become lucid? What new rule or what happens?
Uh, Let me think about that for a second. Let me pull that pedal out. It's pretty boring by itself. Let me think. Well, first of all, I don't even think of it as a theory or something. What I described is what's going on when you're dreaming, right? It is you,
Right.
or at
No,
least it
I know.
is your brain creating this world, and all of the rules that you have to follow within that rule are rules that you are creating. They might be based on your experience, or even based on wiring of your brain, I suppose. But it's still, I mean, lucid dreams or the things that happen in dreams all the time prove that you can easily break those rules. It happens every fucking night. Um, so you're asking what is going on when you become lucid? That's really actually an interesting question. I've never thought about that before. Uh, well, I guess a couple of things is I think that there's a pattern where awareness, when the human mind becomes more aware of things in our lives, we get more power over our lives, and this is probably an emergent property um, that has to do with the size of our brain and stuff. But it's
Yeah.
magical. It's amazing, right? You become aware of something. This is how most psychological healing happens, or at least it's a big part of the psychological healing. Is just, oh look, I've got a problem. Oh look, I've got trauma, and then all of a sudden you've got a lot more power over it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Good. Yeah.
and so if you're or not just trauma things, I mean intellectual things too. Like oh look, you're trying to become a better musician. and you say, oh, look, I have an intonation problem. And as soon as you realize you've got an intonation problem, you've taken the first step
You can
towards
change it.
fixing your intonation.
Or being choiceful, or yeah, over how you manipulate that
Right,
facet of whatever. Yeah.
right, totally, exactly. And so I think that particularly through like meditation, and I suppose through psychedelics too, or other things, I mean, even like science and stuff, or just regular introspection, we become more and more aware of what's going on in our lives, and that gives us power. So, uh, so it could just be an emergent thing that, like, being lucid might be, that's cool. Being lucid might be a become an accidental emergent quality that maybe as you're spiritually growing or you're just at a point in your life when you're really alive and awake, you becoming lucid becomes more is more likely because you're becoming more lucid in your in your waking life too.
Yeah. Just yeah.
Uh, the other thing, I don't know if this is different, or the other thing that comes to mind is maybe, particularly if you're at a point where you are growing a lot, maybe the experience of becoming lucid in your dreams is an important lesson that you're creating for yourself. It's ultimately part of the dream narrative. Just like, you would create some symbol, right? In your dreams, you've got symbols for all kinds of things going on in your life, be it, something happening, an illness in your body or a stress going on at work or whatever. You create symbols for that. Well, if you're becoming lucid, maybe that's a symbol for becoming more aware in your whole overall life.
That's interesting. So awareness is itself a symbol of a larger awareness, I guess. Is that
I
what you're
guess,
saying?
yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of making this up as I go because I've never thought about the subject.
No, you can't just make this shit up, dude.
oh, oh, by the
I want to
way,
know whether
somebody
it's true
mentioned,
or false.
suggested, this isn't me. Somebody suggested 5 grams of mushrooms every week
Okay, well, yeah, great, sure. I'm down for what though?
for 1 week. I don't know.
Oh, they're like challenging
Yeah,
us.
no, I don't know. I think maybe they're suggesting that that is what they do, or
Oh, okay.
maybe it is what they do. I see on Reddit people do a lot more. A lot more psychedelics than me. I mean, I do psychedelics often, but all of it is low
Yeah,
dose.
I don't know, man. That's like saying, does God exist? I'm like, you know what? I get it, what you're saying, and that's totally fine, but I'm more interested in why at the end of the day.
I mean, why in
Um,
this case? Why larger
yeah,
doses?
no, well, no, I mean, how about this? Since I don't know how this works, but if listener who's doing 5 grams a week, if you're still listening, I would be interested in why you're doing it. To me, that's more what motivates personal growth, which then maybe includes psychedelics, but coming from another place of why. I don't know why, or self inquiry, universal inquiry. Like, what are you working on? Chris and I get on the phone a lot. We're like, hey, you know, what are you working on right now, philosophically or creatively or whatever? So I guess that's I'd be curious, listener, if you're working on why you're doing doses like that, specifically what you're getting out. And I will also add that I'm interested because I am looking for maps. So I'd say general internet, if you're hearing this, if you have a map for where psychedelics takes you or what changes it engenders in you, how you can think, feel, act, you know, manifest differently on that drug. I would be interested to hear your perspectives because I haven't really had a huge success with tracking down people. So I kind of have my own, and Chris, you and I have talked about it a lot, but I'm interested to hear someone else. So if you're doing high dose or low dose or no dose, then let us know kind of where are you when you're there? what can you do, and what's interesting about that place? Are you using it for a particular purpose? Are you just exploring? Are you trying to make a change in your life, and so you're looking for, insights? I'd really like to know. So we'll save the chat. I don't know. We were talking about lucid dreams. I really like that notion. I really would like to lucid dream more consistently, and thinking about it that way seems helpful. Something I was saying earlier is through reading all these psychedelics books, I'm kind of normalizing myself to like the use of psychedelics in a way that I don't use them that often. I use cannabis a lot, but I'm starting to think about new themes, higher dose mushrooms, which again, it's its own realm. Why am I doing it? A, I want to have the experience. B, I want to experience myself in that domain. C, I want to see if there's anything there that's a tool that I have been looking for but haven't found elsewhere. So I'm curious about that. Time frame wise, it seems totally doable. Seems like 4 to 6 hours. You're like, functional if needed. So it doesn't seem like it really extends the trip that long. Anyway, I'm a little ignorant about this. I've done some high dose LSD, ketamine, salvia, but not mushrooms. Salvia I'm interested in too. And then I'm looking at new stuff. I guess, Chris, that's what you and I have been talking about. You have been too. Kava, kratom.
Yeah, well,
what
because of the Kava bar, and that is also a Psychonaut hangout, I am looking at, how can you do things semi-public safely, well, like these like barely drugs like Kava and kratom.
Barely drug.
Well, I mean, you're not gonna those drugs only go so far.
No, that's true.
That's why they're legal. So I'm interested in those. Or you mentioned one the other day, Blue Lotus of the Nile, things like that.
Yeah.
I want to learn more about. But also, check this out. I've been thinking I just had a meeting with Chris Solomon, the salvia guy in California. We shot a movie. I'll put it up soon. It was really
cool.
fun. We really get along well because it turns out we've got a lot in uncommon.
Cool.
But he is working on this making sort of like flavored quids. Do you know what a quid is?
Yeah.
It's where you take the leaf and instead of smoking salvia, you
That's a good idea.
You sort of chew it.
Wow.
And people usually do it with like dry or not dry, fresh leaves.
Well, concentrate.
Well, he said that it doesn't work with concentrate.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah, but
okay.
I don't know why. But what he's doing is he is making concentrates, and instead of taking the extract and putting it on dried salvia leaf, he's putting it on other herbs. Like a lemon.
Oh, wow.
I forget what it was. Lemon something.
Verbena?
It wasn't lemongrass, but let's say it's lemongrass. Or he could do it with like lavender or something like that, or sage. Right? Or basil.
Interesting.
So he takes the salvia extract and puts it on, we'll say, it wasn't basil, but lemon balm. That's what it was that he used. And he said that it worked. He still is dialing it in and hasn't given it to anybody else. But it did work. And so it occurred to me, man, if he dials that in, I could serve that at my Kava.
Yes.
And have these like crazy legal psychedelic parties.
Quid.
With people,
wow, that's a great
with people
idea.
quitting. Wouldn't that be cool?
That's a great idea. I like the herb, I like the flavor. I want to try that. That makes sense. You have mucous membranes in your mouth that would soak in. That's a great idea. Yeah, we tried the tincture once.
Did you do it?
Was
I did.
I haven't done it yet, actually. I have held alcohol under my tongue, so I can kind of like anticipate what the experience would be. But then, no, I haven't done it that way yet. I will though. I'll pull it out actually, since I'm lining this stuff up. That's great, man. That'd be I think pretty easy to make, and like that could be super popular. I've been researching Amanita, and I'm kind of excited about it actually.
Hey, you mind if I take a little break? I am gonna get some. I'm gonna get my next kava, and I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back.
All right, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh,
right.
And I'll leave my microphone here rather than putting it like on my
that's a good idea. That's a yeah, so I can't see the chat, and I don't know who's writing what, but I will say, if you want to contribute content, I would love this to be a kind of, write-in kind of show that we could, or like we kind of did. We'll address questions, but feel free to share your ideas as well. It can be like a three-way conversation. I'm hoping we'll have some special guests on Zoom as well, but I think it sounds even more interesting. So yeah, write what you got going on. Obviously, you can tell the topics we're in unless you're just tuning in. And there's a wide variety of them. But I would say, in general, Chris and I are similar in that we're always asking a question about something. And what that thing is almost is important, but it's secondary to the fact that you're asking questions already. The brain's job is to make answers. And so if you're going with the brain's natural state and you're in a bunch of answers, then there's benefit for it, and a lot of survival benefits, social and material and psychological. You kind of compartmentalize things, right? Each time you give a linguistic kind of framework or an answer to something, that's the words that I use to kind of target that. Reality gets dissected, and questions actually try to link those things literally in the brain, right? You're connecting parts of the brain in novel ways to seek answers, which you can interpret as brain complexity, which ultimately is a healthy brain. It's complex, it's variable, it's stable, but it's moving. If you have these strict patterns of brain activity that minimize the number of parts, that's usually when you get anxiety and depression. So basically, I would say that if you're feeling depressed and anxious, learning how to use your brain in novel ways is the solution. That's maybe what psychology does. That's maybe what meditation does. What psychedelics do. Psychedelics very much do. They lower overall brain activity, but they create a much more complex interchange between parts of the brain. It's not that parts of the brain get shut down, although some more than others. It's more that the activity overall is less intense, but it's more complex. And this is a solution. This is this helps these experiences. So that's a good way to think about it. And I totally lost my train of thought because I started off somewhere.
That's what you do.
Questions. That's it. Yeah. Questions. Asking questions. That's when you get to using your brain in novel ways. So you do that, you're going to get what Chris said about dreams. You get more power over your life. You use your language to identify new aspects of your experience or the world around you, and then you can affect those in particular. And the more you have, the better. The more they link together, the better. You can notice patterns amongst pieces. You can kind of have theoretical constructs of reality. Like there's complexity and multi-layered complexity itself. is a defining factor of mental well-being. When early anthropologists were studying shamanism, and this has been going on for hundreds of years, but one of the most noted insights is that while the shaman on the surface, compared to a Western paradigm, appears to be kind of crazed, they're dressed in furs and metal and bells and beads and pouches and swords and sticks. And depending on their mode of working, they might have very kind of dramatic, flamboyant kind of actions with demons or gods. They may roll around on the ground. They may be engaged in some kind of battle. Which is to say, they're acting in ways that to our mind are crazy. What's actually going on is the level of energy that they can promote, that they can conjure up, the level of intensity. It creates an intensity in the room, and they can use that intensity to affect change in their clients based on whatever the client is needing: physical health, bad luck, crops growing, whatever. Probably the same stuff we do today: relationships and money problems. But they're gonna enact this drama and then help you with your problems. So, but these shamans were also noted to be the most intelligent and stable psychologically in the tribe. They were often leaders. They often were also herbalists, definitely healers, astronomers, astrologers, mythologists, historians, on and on and on. I'm not aware that shamans they were more into cultural leadership. You don't hear anthropologists talk about shamans as like in physical jobs or the way they act. And interestingly, you have this one person they're storytellers, right? They're actors. You have one person doing all this stuff. And if you think about that in a modern day, like either that's really unusual, or they're a particular kind of person. And a storyteller in a modern day would almost have this vibe, almost more than healers. Spiritual healers can have that vibe. But back in the day, it was one person doing all these things. And culturally, all those different topics that we are compartmentalizing weren't different back then, right? We say that they're astrologers and storytellers and herbalists and historians, but they're not making a distinction amongst those things. To them, that's what culture is, right? So you compare their culture and our culture, you kind of get some insight into some aspects of human development. But their culture, these are usually tribal people. They live outside, and their culture is extraordinarily rich. The environment they live in is hugely complex because of their relationship and awareness of their environment and how it changes over the seasons in the course of a day and year over year, and every plant, animal, weather pattern. They're aware of so much, and these were the most stable people. So I think for us in modern day to consider the complexity of one's self-cultivation, you can see a lot of examples of it. Shamans are kind of extreme, but even in early America, you have the country's fathers or whatever being inventors and politicians and theoreticians and historians. Like they were doing so many things in a way in modern day that's less usual. But the more cultivated a person is, I think the more stable they are, and we can use that for our mental health. So that's my pitch on asking questions and really considering your own personal cultivation, just as a question, right? Just the path you go on. Chris will also attest to. Once you start asking the questions, that is your spiritualized life. It's just the path you go on. And you get answers, kind of, but once you get them, they're not really answers. They can feel like that, maybe.
I used to always say, I used to have this phrase that the questions are the answer.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Once you find an answer, it's almost like you've lost.
Yeah, it's true. I would say that the better you can ask the questions, the better the quality of your experience, because the questions are the answer. Therefore, the experience of asking them is the answer.
You know what? So, did you get into this because you wanted to make the point that these shamans on the surface look so weird, but actually there was method to their madness, and they weren't that weird?
Yeah, there's method to the madness. They're very cultivated people, right? There is an argument, well, I don't know what to call it. There is a consideration that schizophrenic, borderline type experiences can have spiritual components, which they can. But what you never see is somebody in that state being more functional socially than other people. They're less functional. And a lot of mystics were like that. But shamans specifically were often more functional than other people in the tribe. They were more insightful. They had more power. They were leaders.
But also wisdom. A little scary. You know, they tell us, they talk about how shamans traditionally, not just today, but in traditional cultures too, they would sometimes have very mixed feelings. The normal folk, if you want to call them that, would have very mixed feelings about the shaman.
Yeah, this is true. I would imagine there's but you know, I'm phrasing wrong, but the essence of it was the first kind of social leader in human was somebody that basically did everything. They were shaman, leader, priest, healer. There's these categories this author was laying out. And I think the categories were shaman, healer, priest, and maybe like politician, something like that. And so as you get over time, the status of the shaman kept decreasing because other sectors of society got more power. Ultimately the priests, and now the politicians. But I think, I mean, again, I've never studied this effect. My sense is that over time, the shamans became more marginalized and people were afraid of them. But in the beginning, they literally were the figurehead. And unless they were doing a good job, either they wouldn't be at the figurehead or the tribe wouldn't exist. So it kind of like hand in hand. So it could be that change over time.
And it's not necessarily consistent.
Yeah.
Even if it's a pattern. But, I mean, well, I tend to always think there is a tendency for hippie types, basically, to be like, ew, the natives were so great and everything was so great 10,000 years ago. But I think that most of these patterns that we see today, probably a lot of them were around a long time ago, too.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Like the oppression of mystics. In one way or another. I mean, you have these insights about the world. It comes out weird when you try to tell other people, and then they think you're crazy or that you're possessed or that you're the enemy, right? Or you're a heretic, right?
That I would not agree on. I do think there's themes of, say, cultural violence, human violence, but mystics, I really believe that at some point mystics were taken for granted. Anything they said was treated as real. long as it had some kind of affirming real-world reflection. I would even argue as late as 2,000 years ago, no, later. I mean, think of Joseph Smith. He was saying some crazy shit. He got followers. Yeah, it can be political, but...
Yeah, but he was also assassinated.
Well, okay, good example. So maybe that's too late. That's pretty late. I was thinking of Jesus specifically. But the other one, right? People are actually lining up to ask the oracle questions. And the oracle was clearly in a crazed, altered, or some kind of altered state.
So
anyway.
You're saying... I guess I figured even with someone like an oracle, they were probably, my impression is that they were considered pretty weird, even if they were respected.
Yeah. Well, let's see. My main justification for not agreeing with what you said is to consider that in tribal society, look at it this way. At some point in human evolution of consciousness, we differentiated normal and not normal consciousness. What's his name? The author of the Bicameral Mind. His theory, and I haven't read the book, but I know the theory basically, we became aware of our own awareness. We became aware of the dialogue in our head, which exemplified a certain kind of self-awareness, whereas before those two realities were not differentiated. And so our conscious thoughts and our unconscious thoughts, they both had more power. Nowadays, conscious vastly overpowers subconscious day to day, right? Subconscious affects you, but you know, if you're telling yourself weird things, it's you telling yourself that. Most people know. But at some point, it wasn't that way. So my argument is that at some point, if you had a mystic who is either, being crazy is one thing, but saying crazy stuff, like I talk to God, whatever, I really don't think that people responded to it as coming from a dimension different from their own. Yes, experientially, but not fundamentally, because that dimension wasn't any less important than any other. They weren't differentiated. So I think they would, how it actually went down, I really don't know. But I do think that people had more leeway to say, I talked to God, here's what he said. And then people would be like, oh shit, no kidding? All right, good to know at the end of it.
All right, maybe you might have a point, at least. And of course, Aborigine or whatever ancient societies aren't always going to be the same, right? And even within a given society, it's so, we tend to be like monolithic, like everybody in that tribe had this personality, but I mean, they had diversity too. And you are right, you've got like Native American traditions of like vision quests, and like that is totally different than us, because the idea that people should be mastering their mind or exploring the spiritual realms was a more at least in some of these societies, the Maztecs obviously, was way more mainstream than it is for us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's something I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm very passionate about teaching young people how to be psychonauts, but how to be like mystics in general, but in particular, because I'm a psychonaut, what do I do with my 9-year-old? I've got a 9-year-old, and how do I talk about drugs with her? And how do I talk about spirituality, or not just talk, how do we do spirituality together? And there's even amongst something that really annoys me is that even amongst psychonaut culture, there's this whole idea. There's this like cliche that you hear all the time that the brain is developing till you're 25, and therefore you shouldn't touch drugs till you're 25. I'm always like, 20,000 years ago, the life expectancy was like 30. Do you think all those people were waiting till they were 25?
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Hey, can I
I know
ask you a
that's modern
question? Where
psychology.
we had somebody mention, I don't know how to say it, Sam, whatever, 420. I bet he smokes weed. Mentioned that he smoked some. He said too much salvia and turned into an Amazon warehouse. Have you hear about this with salvia? As people turning into things? Chris was telling me about this. Chris Sampson or Solomon was talking about people he's known or even like himself like turning into the couch. I have never experienced anything like that before. Have you?
Wait, again?
Have you ever on
Oh, turned
salvia
into
or
things?
anything else felt like you turned into something like other than you?
Uh, yeah, yeah, I have.
Really?
Not not something identifiable necessarily. I read a trip report. Someone felt like they turned into wallpaper.
That's what I mean. Stuff like that you hear about all the time with salvia. It's weird.
Yeah, I feel that. I felt that. To me, it's spatial. What we might interpret as an Amazon warehouse is actually a boxy shape, and wallpaper, of course, is flat. That's what I think. That's what I turn into. I turn into shapes, but I could give them, an identifier like wallpaper, not just flat. Uh, I tend not to though, but again, I think the reason for me it's box, not Amazon, is I don't know. I'm almost trying to in my day to day. I try to limit mental content. Right? There's a series of meditations that I've developed that I kind of do all the time. It's just basically silencing your inner dialogue, um, basically quote unquote, I don't know, dimming. I don't know your inner um, visualizations, and then a couple other components. But when it comes to psychedelics, I don't tend to have a lot of story around them. I have weird experiences and I feel them, but I don't see things. I don't. My trip reports would be boring. Let's put it that way. No, there's no story. Not really. So yeah, not so I don't turn to Amazon warehouses, but I have turned to a box.
um, yeah,
I wanted
what
to comment.
people often will ask me like, well, what do you see on salvia? And I never know what to say because yeah, I sort of hallucinate, I guess. But when I'm in a deep trance, I am so internal. My eyes are so internal, not external, that even if I'm hallucinating, I literally have the inability to care.
Yeah, that's how I
Because
feel about
even
asking
this
if God's
idea
real.
of, I mean, like I hallucinate more on acid or mushrooms, and like the wall is melting or something. But that is an external kind of a experience, right? I'm over here, the wall is over there, and it's melting, or there's patterns flying across it. There's geometry or something, right? So it is it's like a object subject observation is what I'm saying, right? Um,
Yeah.
but generally on psychedelics, um, especially I would say salvia and ketamine, I am going into such a deep trance. The whole point is to go completely internal, and even the idea of a hallucination is more externalized than where I'm going. Uh,
Yeah.
so I have sort of like the idea of caring about the walls melting is kind of contradictory to how I trip. I just don't care. I do
Yeah, I
enjoy
would.
hallucinations, but they're not very important to me.
I would argue that since the chemicals affecting the brain and the brain's both experiencing your internal reality and external reality, but they're both changing and they're both in the brain, then at some point they kind of lose a kind of distinction that then almost points further in the direction you're talking.
Yeah.
Like there is no, if you're high enough, it's hard to tell which is which. But that's your true state. There isn't a difference. And if you can be aware of that, then you have a lot of power over your experience. Yeah, I was doing this exercise. So if you try here, you want to try it with me?
Okay.
Don't look at a screen. Look at something else. It's not a screen. It doesn't matter what it is though. Maybe
Okay.
something simple because you're gonna have to imagine. So just look at something that's maybe like those flowers in the window to your left or something, or potted plants, whatever they are.
Okay. Gotcha.
Something simple.
Okay.
And
I'm
then
I'm looking at my
look
glass of
at it.
kava.
Okay, look at it. Okay, great. Now close your eyes and imagine it. Okay, then look at it again. And then close your eyes. Maybe slowly continue imagining the kava, but slowly open your eyes to get like, half visual of the physical kava. Just play around with the input until you can do both at once.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then kind of put them together. Just recognize that your brain is really kind of seeing the same thing from two different perspectives.
Hmm. It's like you're looking at you might say like archetype or
Yeah.
platonic form of
Yeah,
a
that's a good
of
way
a
to put it.
glass of kava.
Now focus on that form, okay? Because
Oh, okay.
if you're really seeing the form and it's manifesting two different directions, focus on the form. Now realize that the form exists in a container, and what that container is normally is our sense of outside or inside, right? Experiences happen in a container, but now there's an archetypal form happening in an archetypal container, which then becomes both inside and outside,
Huh.
right? But we're
So
focusing on, yeah.
so does the container are you saying the container is just inherently has to be there?
I'm saying yes because we're going to empty out the container, and so we need something for emptiness to exist inside. For
Okay.
the for so so the art. So you imagine your imagination of kava happens in your inner world. That's a container. I don't know.
Sure.
Your visual of the kava happens externally. What you're noticing is you're actually seeing the archetype. So we focus on the archetype, aware of both its manifestations, but recognizing there is an archetype, and it's common to our experience, but we're not interested in the archetype. The archetype's just content.
Okay.
There's a million kinds of content. What we're interested in is the container. So just be aware that the archetype exists in a reality that allows it to exist. It doesn't have to be a container like a bottle, but some framework.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. You're saying that
Yeah.
if we're making a distinction between like kava-ness, the archetype, the platonic form of the kava, which is different than the imaginary one, and the sensual one, then that like archetype has to sort of like exist somewhere.
Right. Or you can think of it as the inner the thing that you're referencing, the kava, the thing that you're referencing, which is actual reality, but you're having different inner and outer experiences of it. That's the same thing. That's the same stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
It's going in us, out us, in us, out us. But we're aware that that input, that content is the same stuff. For that matter, you look anywhere else in the room, it's the same thing. It's an archetype of that. But we don't care what it is. All we care about, there's archetypal experience happening in archetypal framework. And so you can experience it as
Hmm. That
it yeah. Go
that
ahead.
seems as close to objectively real as you're really going to get.
That's yes. But so then check this out. Are you am I should I take you back through it? Or are you in the experience? Are you there?
Oh, are we still meditating?
Well, yeah, let me take you
Okay,
one more
sure.
distance.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back just for funsies. So imagine something and then see it and do it simultaneously. Now just stay there for a second until you tell me when you're there.
Oh, okay. So now I'm imagining something different.
I'm doing it with you.
Oh,
You can it does what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter what you look at. It's just content. We just need something to do the practice with.
sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you're there. You're having the inner imagination experience and the sensory experience simultaneously.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm doing it with you. Okay. So now feel them together and kind of merge them. Just merge the feelings states. Merge the inner feeling, imagination feeling, and the outer feeling, or whatever you define it, however you define it. Put them together
Yeah.
until it's the same thing, just one thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now, once you're there, recognize that similar to the polarity, this one thing exists in its own reality, right? It's neither being imagined nor perceived. It's something else that's causing it to occur. But we don't have a word for it, but it's in a framework.
Okay.
Like like particle and wave. They're two sides of the same thing.
Sure. You could say
Uh,
the like I'm still on the kava, so there's the sensual, what I call sensual, the one I see. Then there's the one I'm imagining. But then if I mold them into one another, I could think of the imaginary kava and the experienced kava as being two aspects of the same kava.
yeah, and the way that way that merged thing is coming into reality is through a mechanism different than imagining or perceiving. It's a universal mechanism.
Hmm.
It's coming into existence by virtue of the container it's in, which you could argue is the same as the other one. So I'm saying, however you want to imagine it, just consider that the kava essence as you're perceiving it exists in a world made out of that stuff. But it's not more stuff. It's just a container that allows for more of it to exist.
Huh. Okay.
Can you feel that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you have two options. One is you can now create more archetypal forms and then they can manifest as internal and external down the line. Or in my meditation, let's try this. So you're aware of this container, and it may be yeah, you're aware of whatever word you're using as kind of context for the content. Now recognize that ultimately there is no content because the content keeps changing. It's basically just a stream of content. So if you think of it like a stream, you just decide, all right, well, let's let that stream, let's just let it be. We're more interested in the container now. Content, whatever. There's always going to be a new front page of the newspaper for literally the next 1,000 years. So we already know the pattern. It's not that interesting for the moment. So we're in this archetypal container now. It's empty. It has a stream, but that stream's going to change And so it's not that real because it's going to change into a different version of itself, which we don't even know what that is. So therefore, bupkis. So if you focus on the archetype, can you focus on the archetypal container?
Sure.
Okay. So the container is empty of form, however your brain might be interpreting it. Now, from there, once you have a container, that is simply a sensory organ. So the experience you're having in meditation on this archetypal container or context is a context or container for something. We're not interested in the content. And in fact, we're not interested in the mind's content at all. We're interested in new content from a different place. And we need an empty container in order to point it that direction and get content. But we can't do that till we're aware of the emptiness of what it feels like to just be in the context itself, the archetypal. So if you can experience a container and recognize that into the container is going to come content, but only as you intend for it to. There's a whole other side of this relationship that we haven't built yet. You with me?
Yes, but I'm getting to be ready to move on.
Oh,
You're like, we've got another 45 minutes.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. But I'll just leave you with this. If you want to play with it, because I'm kind of designing this. Basically, that container would be clairvoyance, clairaudience, stuff like that. You can pick up on content coming from non-linearly connected dimensions. Right? It's not your room.
Within the
it's
space.
Arguably within any dimension, because that container is between all dimensions. And so you can go tap into a tree and hear the voice of the tree, or the spirit of the land, or someone's inner dialogue, or a ghost, or anything.
And this is a practice you're developing?
Yeah, this is my meditation practice. I want to teach. If anyone out there wants to learn this, hit me up. I want to teach this. Because I view it as the mechanical consciousness practice designed to allow for psychic capacities. So I had a client say, hey, my wife went to a psychic, and the psychic literally knew everything that was going on, and there's no way she could have. What do you think about this? I'm not sure what to think.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, look at it this way. The psychic is just aware of multiple. The psychic is aware of more subtle sensory experience. But the information that she's getting via this capacity is ones that most people aren't aware other people can pick up on. So for them, it's unusual that she can. And that would work because the heart is an organ which can pick up on subtle electromagnetic frequency vibrations coming from things, and the brain interprets it in a very different way. Like intuition and stuff like that can work that way. But I was like, it's kind of a mechanical process because the heart picks it up. If you cultivate the practices, you can sensitize yourself to this stuff, and it just works kind of like any other sense. And he's like, oh, well, that's it. To him, it made sense. So anyway, that's what I feel like I'm doing with this other exercise is you can have multi-dimensional consciousness experience like you do on drugs or meditation, but you can do it through this mental practice. I'm not any great fucking mystic or teacher, but I've been having fun playing around with it, and it's had a effect on me. So I'm kind of curious if it might do anything for anyone else. So anyway, but there you go. That's my, that's beautiful, Chris.
You know, it just occurred to me that with this stream, we are exercising, both of us are exercising the area that we would like to be better at as opposed to where we are most comfortable.
Oh, yeah. How's that?
Well, what I mean is that I've spent a lot more time than you talking about philosophy on video, right? And I've done a lot more live streams than you. Damn near countless more live streams than you. And I, on the other hand, am sitting here punching out these chords, trying to not sound terrible. And so we're both practicing what the other probably has a lot more experience at.
Yeah, that's true. I punch out a lot of chords. No, I've been tracking your piano progress. I'm a proud parent of your piano progress. Oh, I wanted to say, in regards to Charlotte, well, I don't know if we're naming names. In regards to teaching our youth about, psychedelics. Here's my stand. Can I tell you my stance? As you very well know, kids are incredibly creative and imaginative inherently. Almost every kid is. Whether they stay that way, who knows. But so I would say that to introduce a kid to the idea that there's multiple states of reality and what you can do with those is ultimately the teaching of psychedelics, maybe for anybody, but definitely appropriate to kids. But they don't have to have a psychedelic experience necessarily to have that experience. What they need is somebody who knows that experience to explain to them what that space feels like, and then the kid can imagine it and then just utilize it right away. That's a way I think would be effective. And, as a parent, I would argue that when you're really parenting, that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying, hey, what can I share with you that'll allow you to imagine the world in such a way that you feel better or whatever it is kids needing. But creatively, I've always thought that's, I never did it explicitly with my kids, but I haven't left it out. Sometimes I'd be imagining a psychedelic state I had experienced, but sharing an applicable insight with a kid. So I don't know, there's this fine line of it's almost like you need to down a level, or what's it? What are they? The sound. What do all the sound
down sample?
Yeah, reduce it an octave. I think that's the lingo for a kid, and I think they could get there. Or other things, spinning around in circles. That's probably good.
I should have these mystic trainings for 10-year-olds, and we just spin around in circles.
I mean, and then you lay on the ground and learn how to work with that experience. I mean, that would be really effective, I think. Anyway, I like the question. I would actually love to do teaching as well. So maybe I'm, for our internet audience, as of this moment, Chris and I are launching a psychedelic childcare.
Along with our other 3 projects?
Yeah, if you would like your child to be involved, it won't be anything more than spinning around. Maybe a lot of hot chocolate. And
also crack cocaine.
Yeah, and we'll teach them how to Anyway, but I thought that was you mentioned it before. I think it's a cool thing to bring to fucking education. God damn it! Like, let's get some real fucking education out there.
Yeah,
Then we
totally.
won't have these problems. Well, like really intelligent people doing really fucking rad shit. That's what
Oh no, not that.
we'll have. But wait, they don't want to work normal jobs?
Yeah. Drugs must be bad. They don't want to go to work or go to war.
That is
Let me
tipping
get back
right
on our.
quick.
I think we should probably actually call our little adventure here soon because I need to do other stuff.
Oh, all right.
But let me see here.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, well, I don't think our answer is going to be very good because I have not done holotropic breath work. Well, yeah, actually, that is
Huh.
something. Have you thought about that or done that at all? Do you know what that is? I know a lot of
Uh,
people are into like psychedelic breath work.
um, from my experiences in psychedelics and breathwork and knowing Stanislav Grof's work some, um, I haven't studied his method specifically, but I'm pretty sure I understand what you do, what it feels like, and then what you can use it for to enter these like deeper feelings, psycho-emotional, psycho-spiritual self-experiences. What was the question? Do we know about it?
Or no, have you done it?
Oh, yeah. I personally have not done that specifically. Um, I do. Breathing rapidly is one technique. I've used a
Yeah.
technique where I hold my breath and kind of expand my chest. And you want to do it gently. And also, you could fall down. You kind of get this blackout head rush experience, but it's more controllable than that if you do it right. And anyway, that's been a really interesting thing I've done here and there. But no, it's I've read it. I'm reading about it a lot right now. The
A lot of people,
holotropic
like at the
breathwork.
Silo Temple, the Mushroom Church in Eugene, practice that. That's kind of one of their main. That's one of their practices that they do.
Yeah, I would say too. I mean, you can do all the stuff under the sun. If I can have a soapbox, 15 seconds. Number one, work on yourself. Number one, do you feel good or bad? Do you feel bad under the good or do you just feel good? Are you confident or hiding insecurity? Are you sad about something you never processed? Like, work on yourself. Just start there. If you go too far too fast and you don't ground it in your own growth, it's I don't know. It's not bad per se, but it can create a split. Your own self work can be more dramatic. I just think it's important to come from a grounding and working on yourself. And that means, what do you like to do? Is your life satisfying? How do you feel about this, that, or the other? Just that kind of stuff. And then go out from there. But have your reasons, because once you work on yourself, you'll know, like, wait a second, I really want to work on creativity or patience or whatever. And then when you do holotropic breath work, you're doing it specifically because you know you have trauma that you never worked for. And that's what you're doing for random experience. Not bad, not bad. If there's no other motivation, that's a great one. But just check in and see if you're facing your own hard to face internal stuff. That's the warrior path, really. Killing your ego, great. You know what's harder? Working with your ego. That's what's harder. So. Well, next time I talk to you, Chris, I will have tried kratom, and I believe I will have put in an order of amanita. So we'll.
Oh yeah, we
we'll
didn't talk about
discuss
Amanita,
that.
but I think I want to end our session, but
Yeah, that's fun.
we've got a lot more to talk about. So we'll see. We'll watch this, and if anybody's got any feedback or anything, you can put it in the comments. And because we are basically the two of us have these psychedelic talks like a couple times a week, and we thought, well, why don't we turn some content into it, or turn it into content? So we'll see how we feel about it afterward, and maybe we'll end up doing it like weekly or something. And since this is Zoom, it's not obvious because I'm such a brilliant video artist, but this is just Zoom based, and so we could even have other people. So you know, we could have third art, sort of guest artists from around the world or whatever join us in our little psychedelic TV show.
Yeah. If you want to talk to us about this stuff, then please chime in. We love to diversify, meet some new like-minded folks doing cool
Yeah,
shit.
totally. I mean, we could bring on the people we know. We could talk about Christian stuff with Steve. We've got that Arrington that you've never met, but I really like him. I want
Oh
to get him
yeah.
back. He's
Yeah,
in
he's heavy.
Washington, and he's a outspoken psychonaut and like free jazz player. Maybe we could get James, the leader of the Silo Temple, the Mushroom Temple in
Yeah.
Eugene. Wouldn't
Yeah,
that be
Solar
fun?
Temple. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, great. Well, hopefully we'll keep doing this. I will stay. If you want us, the more positive feedback we get, the bigger this thing will get. Chris and I have been playing with starting a professional expression of our common interests for a lot of years. We've had some cool different projects we've done, and this is a new one. And I kind of feel like we're heading somewhere. We're having an adventure. So I'd love to reach more people. So let us know if you're digging this.
This is definitely good for my piano chops. I'll say that. I'm gonna get so
Yeah,
fucking
man.
good.
You, I do like the background music of you practicing and messing around.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then whenever I don't want to play anymore, I'm like, fuck it. I'm just. I don't even find an ending or anything. I'm just, oh, fuck it. Here, we'll end this way.
Actually, what I'd love to do, I think my answer to I'm 47 and I was like 4 and I fucking don't want to do it anymore is I'll do it on our sessions. That way I'll mess around like you and kind of that'll be the most interesting practice additive I will have done in I don't know 8 years.
Yeah,
So
you know what we should do is
we'll try that one next time.
we should shoot you doing Amanita mascara, or maybe not.
Maybe salvia.
Maybe
Yeah, I'm
salvia.
gonna.
Oh, actually, yeah, yeah.
I
Believe it or not, I do make videos on salvia. Believe it or not.
Yeah, we'll do one. Yeah, no, I'll do. I think we should roll it all in. Actually, I don't. Sometimes some of it's personal or Chris and Jeremy time, but I'm going to do micro Amanita and build it up. I think that's my plan.
I think that's what's best.
Yeah.
Did you
Oh,
give up on
also,
Datura?
yeah, all the old world shit, Henbane, Belladonna, Datura, all the nightshades, nah, Mandrake, nah,
Really? Even
nah.
Datura, huh? I thought, hey, maybe you never know. Maybe just a little bit of Datura and then like find where it's not too bad, but it does not have a
I
good
might, I
reputation.
might, yeah, I might experiment it. Yeah, I'm gonna do one at a time. Amanita is the jam. There's 3 different species. I didn't know that, so that's what I'm worrying about right now. And then, well, yeah, we'll see what happens. Oh, it's GABAergic. That's what I wanted to tell you. So, ketamine, glutamate system, most psychedelics, or almost all the psychedelics, serotonin system, Amanita GABA system. So that's totally different.
Oh.
Oh, and the old
Amanita. Oh,
world.
so it's the GABA is like ketamine.
No, no, ketamine is glutamate.
Oh, and those are not the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, they do opposite things. In fact.
Oh, oh. Okay. Well, I better go. Why don't we call it a session? And because my phone is dinging, and I am actually
All
technically
right.
at my job right now.
No, you are. You are. All right. Good talking
So
to you.
yeah.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, everybody. Bye bye.